Hey folks, happy Friday. Happy Friday the 13th, believe it or not. It's December 13th, and we are quickly approaching the end of the year, which is really, really exciting. It's a time for us to get together. I know we've been meeting a lot with clients on 2025 strategy, which is going to be our topic for today. We're not going to give away all the secret sauce, but we've been doing quite a bit of research, as you can imagine, preparing for some of these meetings. And there's a couple trends that we felt appropriate to jump out here, give you a little bit of insight on what we're seeing, what we believe will be impactful in 2025. So we'll dive into two trends. But before we get started, Angie, is there anything that you want to kick us off with? Anything that you want to say?
Just Merry Christmas, everyone. Just we're praying blessings upon everyone and hope you have just a really awesome Christmas season with your families and friends.
Yeah, and I think it definitely becomes a time where things can be a bit stressful. We just encourage you to try and take a breath and remember that why we're here, what's the reason for the season, and just embrace the holidays. I know sometimes it can become really, really stressful. So we're going to try to keep it light, keep it fun. But I really do feel like the two topics that we're going to talk about today will be impactful for your business. So let's just dive right in. The first trend for 2025 is more zeroed into the B2B space. So I apologize for anybody that's out there more of the B2C, but the B2B trend that we're really finding, and I'm sure a lot of you folks are doing this in some form or fashion, but really it's about embracing this and taking it further. It's B2B short form content. Sounds very generic. What does that really mean? What we're doing right now with Alive could be considered some short form content, but truly what short form content is digestible, bite-sized pieces, no more than 2 to 3 minutes, rather more towards the shorter side, like 30 seconds. These things can be made up of what we would call like a product demo. Maybe it's a very quick look into a product or service that you're delivering. That's a great way to get short form content out there. Some form of a CEO soundbite. Are you doing any type of thought leadership? Are you currently writing LinkedIn articles? Are you doing LinkedIn lives? How can you take that and make it more digestible, bite-sized? That's really something to lean into, is this sort of what we would call a snackable thought leadership. We all know how quickly things are moving today. Our attention span is shrinking more and more and more every year with all of the distractions that we have. So it's really important to keep that in mind when you're delivering and creating content, is to ensure that you're doing it in a way that will be digestible and still deliver value for your audience. So this piece is something that we're talking about with our clients on how can you deliver short form content? What are things that you're doing today? What are some topics? Ultimately, we recommend to folks, go out and create a quick list. What are some things or ideas that you can talk about in a digestible manner? And then just execute on those. I mean, make a list, whether it's every Friday, one Friday a month. Doing this form of short, digestible content, it takes some rhythm. It definitely takes time to get into it, but we are finding that this will be impactful in 2025, particularly from voices that are seen as thought leadership. This B2B perspective is really very much built on credibility. And that's something that I know can be difficult for the executives that are out there, the business leaders, the entrepreneurs. Finding time is really not possible. So this actually allows you to be able to be more digestible. It doesn't need to be this big, long-winded expose on what you're doing in your business. This really allows you to do something that's quick hitting, move on to the next one. And I think you'll find that this form of content actually allows you to be a bit more creative. So, Angie, I don't know if you want to just share some thoughts on B2B short form content.
I do. So I think, Eli mentioned one thing I would really encourage you to do right now, and that is to schedule some whiteboard or Blackboard if you're old school sessions to just write anything and everything that you think you can talk about as you go into this new year. Who's going to talk about it? And then if you can't figure out who's going to talk about it, consider influencers that can get on and be part of your brand and deliver short form content. The other thing I want to say to that is also think about complementary content. to your short form content. So if you're on there, you're talking for a minute about something, can you allow them to download an infographic that captures everything that you just talked about, or some type of a checklist that captures everything that you just talked about? So this, everything new is old, or everything old is new again. If you look back 5-10 years ago, downloads were a big deal in digital. They kind of went away because people stopped downloading, and then it wasn't gated content anymore. There was just this whole big thing. We actually are seeing a little bit of a resurgence with people downloading things from websites. So this gives you a really good time to just whiteboard your topics, whiteboard what it is you want to do short form content on, and then is there a piece that you can do with that? So we're really excited about it, and we're excited to see all of you out there doing short form content next year.
And I think it's a great way to frame it up. We've always talked about things in a funnel, right? Marketing is a funnel. How do you get from top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom funnel? This short form content really does live in that top of funnel, that awareness stage. So to Angie's point, it is really important to tie it to some form of additional deliverable or value add that starts to shift them from top of funnel down to middle of funnel. There's that conversion path, right? So I think it's really important, to Angie's point, to do this from a strategic perspective. Don't just willy-nilly go out there and talk about something that you believe there's value, but tie it to something that you can actually deliver on from some form of a value add. So it could be a data sheet, it could be a checklist, it could be an infographic, it could be a blog that you expand upon the topic that you just talked about. So it doesn't need to be this
could be audio. I just read a great thing on audio is a topic for 2025. Again, it's been coming and going for the last 5 years in our strategy. Facebook Meta didn't do what they said they were going to do because they were going to create an audio file option for when you post. And I don't know where that's at, or even if it's a thing anymore, but I did see in a lot of the strategy research that comes back to me that audio is still on the list as 2025. So it could even be, you don't want to get on video, you just do some sound bites and maybe place them on your website and link people to your website if you can't paste those sound bites, or you do the sound bites with some kind of another, video that you're using your sound bite as an overlay to that video. So don't allow, there's so many creative things we can do nowadays. And that's what we're trying to say is use creativity, use creatives in your community, and then marry it together, and you're going to have something amazing.
And you did touch on something there that is probably one of the biggest trends in 2025 that I didn't really plan on talking about, but it is audio. Podcasting is not going away. And do you need to create a podcast channel? Maybe not. But if you don't think there's value in it, take a look at what happened in this recent election and how important podcasts were for delivering information. We are changing the way in which we digest content. Folks don't want mainstream content anymore. They want to be able to do it in a manner that is relevant to them. So podcasts really allow you to create that lane to have more long-formed discussions around bigger content. So you could always start, again, top of funnel, if we think about it that way, short form content, what's quick, what's digestible, what's snackable, and drive it to somewhere where there is more of a long form conversation, whether that's written or, to Angie's point, audio. Audio is going to be in trend in 25. Think about how you can embrace it for your business.
Yep.
So let's pivot a little bit to more what I get really excited about is in-person connections, the ability to have an intimate environment or create an intimate environment where you can really get to know your customers, your partners, and hear from the horse's mouth. I know that's the old saying, but that really is where we're going in 2025. It's this smaller niche events. Will there continue to be large networking conferences, association-driven events? Absolutely.
Always.
That will always be there. Yes. And I think there's a point in time or a place in time for those within a certain business life cycle. But we are transitioning away from those to what I would call badge swipe opportunities, those larger conferences where you go and there's 1 million people and it's a stuffy hall, or there's these large product demonstrations or conversations, to what is really a smaller niche event that you as the organizer can control your invite list. You create some form of an exclusive opportunity that, yes, will be product and service driven, but think about your clientele. What other areas can you create interest, whether it's aligning some form of philanthropic event? Maybe you're bringing some wellness opportunity into it. Maybe you pull in something fun like a food, a cooking, a wine tasting, something that you can create this environment that opens up dialogue,
Experiential.
discussions. It's an experience. Get your clients, your partners, your prospects interested in an event like this with those sort of what we would call almost like a hook. You want to hook them into the event. And then when you're at that event, you really have the ability to control the conversation. These events are really important to make sure that you are driving some form of future value, create some form of exclusivity. But these events, these smaller niche events, will really allow you the opportunity to be one-on-one with people. You can almost create these sort of, business speed dating opportunities where you sit down and say, hey, we're just going to go rotate through the room and talk for 30 seconds about what's important to you in this space. So we're really pushing our clients to do this in 2025. We've actually had a couple clients in 24 that executed on some of these things. And I think we have found that they can build upon those in 2025. That's super, super exciting. Shout out to Reclamere. They really do embrace this process. And I think that they're seeing the value there, and we can really build upon this for 2025. So Angie, I know events are something that you really, really love as well. So why don't you just share a couple thoughts?
I don't like online events. They're old school.
I think that's a really great.
Like literally, if anybody sees this that was, worked with me back in the day when I worked in an insurance company, like events, and this is old school, but it's new again. Yeah. And it's like, you saw the trend go from COVID and what happened, and people want connection now. But the reality is there's a lot of concern around how do I fill a room? So if I make my event too big, I can't fill the room. I don't have the budget to fill the room. How do I fill the room? The digital ads aren't working in all cases. In some they are the way they used to. They don't want to bring in this particular company to their or tool to their budget. So how do you fill the room? So that's what gets me super excited is with these niche events, you could do really cool things. Like we were talking on a strategy meeting, actually a couple strategy meetings this week about each one bring one. So you do a niche event, you invite, you invite a very curated list of people, and then you invite them to bring one, and then you sweeten the pot to get them to bring one. So if you bring one, you get to get a gift from this really cool place. Like we're shouting out this site called snappy.com this year, which it's like a client gift. We all know what they are, but this one's really good. It's got really good stuff. You could put a budget in there for an event. Like let's say you did a budget of like $500 and you were doing a very small event of 5 curated people, and you ask each one to bring one. When that person accepts an invite, they get to go on and buy a gift. So think outside the box with these, make it super intimate. I love what Eli said, like maybe there's a topic relevant to your brand, but you're also doing something else, like, having a local acoustic guitar player, give them an hour or something like real that they are learning from, like cooking demonstration you talked about. Just super cool ideas, the more creative. And again, whiteboard it. Don't let anything be out of the norm. Like one thing that I would caution you from doing when you're whiteboarding about these small niche events is to shut anyone down with their ideas. Like I've been in meetings where I'm trying to share an idea or somebody else is beside me and they're just shutting it down. Like allow time for every idea to get on the board, because you might be surprised at what somebody gives you. And open it up to other people in your business, like younger, older, whatever, like get some male, female, get that in. So you can really determine what is it that, they might enjoy doing as this like niche event. So super exciting. Yeah, I love it. I love the idea of getting people back face to face.
Yep.
I love that we're seeing this come up on the research, it's more affordable. There's not as big of a risk to companies to do this than, the sky's the limit. If you're super successful, you might say, I'm going to do one every other month.
Yeah.
So
And that's
yeah,
the beautiful
love it.
part of these is that they don't, yes, there are planned. Yes, there is a strategic element. Yes, there is some form of a risk. But I think the way in which you just framed it, Angie, is that there is the ability to take off a lot of that risk by making it more intimate. If it is something that you can control to get 10 to 20 people in the room, what is the risk, right? The risk is, okay, if it's not 10 to 20, maybe it's 7 to 10 that end up showing up. But with those 7 to 10, you have an opportunity, you have an intimate discussion, build a bigger, bolder relationship with those folks.
Yep.
That really allow you to potentially, it's a current client that you can penetrate. We always talk about that. That's actually been a really, really big discussion for one of our clients is, there is always the acquisition cost, right? You know what the cheapest acquisition cost is? A current client that you already have that you can penetrate. So those are great ways to, don't think about, well, I already work with the person. The beautiful part of already working with someone is that they're a champion for your business. They can speak about the service or product that you deliver. And who knows, there may be opportunity to have a deeper, larger working relationship with those folks. So, we encourage you to think about it that way.
And I love to just want to jump in. I know we want to try to keep this again under 20 minutes. We're at 16:16 right now, but I think one of the things we talked about with a client in a strategy meeting was also like, think about people who, if you invite it, if it's like an educational or a brainstorming event where you're talking about your industry, think about people who want to be thought of as thought leaders, as forward thinking, as innovative, and give them a little bit of an ego stroke when you invite them. So it's like, we really want you at this event because your input is valued. Your, of course, be sincere. I'm not saying to make it up, but like, people like to hear that they're thought about as a thought leader, as a forward thinking person in business. So give them that little bit of that. And then the same when they invite that person, each one invite one. Say, think about your clients or not your clients, your peers that are forward thinkers, that are innovators, and please invite them. And that becomes a little bit more than of an opportunity for engagement, right, in this small event. So yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's a great idea for any business.
Well, quick recap. We talked about B2B short form content. We briefly touched on audio. It is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. It wasn't something I planned on talking about, but I do encourage you to think about how you can leverage audio or a podcast, maybe not creating your own, but how can you get in maybe another industry or association podcast that already has an active audience? Can you get yourself onto an episode? And then leverage that in your ongoing social, right? Maybe you can pull out clips from it. That's a huge opportunity. It doesn't necessarily need to be you build your own podcast channel, but think about opportunities to go out and have those discussions. And then what I'm really, really excited about, these smaller niche events. Do some strategy, do a whiteboarding session, talk about how this could be applied to your business and who are the folks that you would want to have included as an audience, and execute on it. The first step's always the hardest. So just encourage you to go out and take these things on. And if you are looking for a sounding board, if you want some feedback, feel free to drop us a note. We'd love to have a conversation and dive a little bit deeper with you into some opportunities for 2025. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Remember the reason for the season, have some reflection, but most importantly, embrace the time with your family and friends. We appreciate you all, and stay active out there and dive on in with us for the next one. See you soon, folks.
Merry Christmas.